The Bengals 2021 defense according to PFF. Scope. What is up, Bengals fam? It's your boy Mike coming back at you with another Who Daily. I got the old school Takeo Spikes jersey on today because we're talking defense. Just like our video yesterday where we went over the PFF preseason predictions about the Bengals offense and their team predictions in general. We're going to go over the defense today. As bad as the defense was last year, they were good in certain areas and they have some really good players on this defense. So there are actually more players ranked for the defense on these defensive lists than the offensive lists. Really interesting stuff. The power rankings, you'll remember from yesterday, they had them at 27. That's a little bit low in my book. I think they're better than a lot of these teams above them, and I think the season will show that, so I ain't too worried about it. And if you take a look, just to refresh your memory, they have the Bengals winning 7.7 games, so 8-ish games. That's not that far off. If you watched my prediction, my record game prediction show, I said I think the Bengals are probably like realistically a 9-win team, but I also think that 7-8 wins is kind of their floor. I don't see Joe Burrow with all this talent on this team, assuming relative health on the team. I just don't see Joe Burrow letting them lose that many games. So I think there's a pretty tight window here, but the ceiling I think is pretty high. I mean, I could see with the amount of tight games they played last year with a really depleted roster, still able to pull off 4 wins, one of them being with the backup quarterback and Ryan Finley, who shouldn't be in the league at all anyway. But I think they're going to take a leap. This could be one of those seasons where you see the Bengals go every year. There's a team that goes from worst to first in their division. The Bengals are probably the strongest bet this year to do that. None of them are super strong bets because that's a difficult thing to predict, but it does happen more often than we think. Let's start with edge defenders. The Bengals. So if you look on here, you're going to see a lot of guys on here that you can't argue with. Khalil Mack, T.J. Watt, Joey Bosa, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Cam Jordan, DeMarcus Lawrence. Obviously the real heartbreaker on here is going to be, who it's going to be. Your boy Carl Lawson comes in at number 18. Bengals weren't able to deliver the bag, and Carl Lawson went to New York, and New York got, according to PFF, the 18th best edge player in the NFL going into the 2021 season. That's a little bit of a sting, especially considering if you look, it's not like Trey Hendrickson is really ranked close to 18. He is on this list, however, at number 29. Not bad, right? Really, but when you take a look at it, this is a pretty clear downgrade, but it's more of a downgrade because of consistency. Carl Lawson has been putting up consistently really good edge player stats for longer. Trey Hendrickson just now started putting up elite edge player stats with a 77 overall pass rush grade, and what do you have, like 20 sacks? So he's a kind of a splash in the pan. The Bengals are hoping he can continue that, elongate that out. You're not going to see Sam Hubbard on here because he's not one of the 32 best. You could make an argument if you were going to say, okay, let's just talk about run-stopping edge players. I think, then you can make an argument. Carl Lawson actually absolutely would be on this list if you're just talking about playing against the run. However, the value of an edge player is so heavily weighted toward that pass rush because getting the quarterback off his timing and getting him on the ground is always going to be more valuable than playing your run responsibility and not allowing big gashing run plays. Take away from that what you will. That's just how the NFL values these things, and it's part of the analytics of teams know if you can get quarterbacks off their spot and move them off their spot, you're going to disrupt that play more often than not. That's more valuable than making a clean tackle at the edge position. Most teams rely on their linebackers to maintain the edge integrity on run plays anyway. However, I think
You might see a guy creep onto this list going into next season in Joseph Osai. Joseph Osai is going to be playing that edge pass rusher position. He's more of a, right now in his career, he's going to be more of a hybrid type player, more of like a outside linebacker, speed rush pass type guy. If they can put on another 10, 15 pounds onto him, he's not going to be he's not really going to be a hybrid because linebackers aren't that big anymore. He's look for him to be producing at a high level. Again, I always make this caveat: stay healthy, be available on the field. Joseph Osai could be a big difference maker on this defense from the edge position in particular. Let's take a look at the interior defenders. You've got the obvious one in Aaron Donald. You've got Chris Jones, Cam Hayward's up there, Grady Jarrett, DeForest Buckner. Names you all recognize: Vita Vea, Leonard Williams. So you keep scrolling down, and the thing is, you'd think, oh, Geno Atkins isn't here anymore. The Bengals are going to have a presence on this list. But everybody forgot about DJ Reader because he got hurt last year. And DJ Reader is a really good interior defender, and interior defenders where you do look more at how they play there. You actually balance out the pass rush with the run defense pretty evenly here. Just checking out what they say about DJ. Reader was one of the two high-profile free agent signings in Cincinnati who didn't make an impact in his first year with the team due to injury, joining Trey Waynes in that regard. And we'll get to Trey Waynes when we take a look at cornerbacks here in a minute. There was a reason he was 35th in PFF's free agent rankings last offseason. Reader was coming off a career high 85.4 PFF grade in 2019 in Houston. That is big for the Bengals. Okay, just having him there, and then his play is only going to be elevated by the presence of Tyler Shelvin sitting there, and Larry Ogunjobi giving more of a speed rush pass, kind of get into your backfield really quickly type guy. DJ Reader is eating up space. You kind of have to block him with two guys. There are very few interior offensive linemen in this league. They're going to be able to take on DJ Reader one-on-one just because of how big and powerful he is, and the move that teams are making kind of across the board of having more agile offensive linemen who can get out in space and block. The problem is that's all good and fine if you're running outside zone schemes, run schemes. The problem is you get a big boy like DJ Reader in there. It's tough to take a 6'4", 315-pound guard and ask him to block DJ Reader. Man, that's quite the assignment. So we got that's the only one we've got on the list here is DJ Reader, but that's something to be excited about, is a healthy season out of DJ. That's going to be a big deal. And look for Tyler Shelvin to spell him. They're going to be pretty much rotational at the same spot. They kind of play the same position. Tyler Shelvin is a little bit better of a pass rusher than DJ Reader is, I think, right now. So we'll see how it goes. Let's take a look at the linebackers. I'm going to surprise everyone here. Guess what? The Bengals don't have any linebackers on this list. The problem is that what's interesting, though, you will see, is KJ Wright is number 14 on this list, and he's still a free agent. Don't know what's going on there, but the Bengals could get some elite linebacker help if they really want to spend the money. I don't think they do on a 31-year-old linebacker, and part of that is, to me, I do think this linebacking core is going to take a pretty significant step forward because all three of the guys are kind of at the point in their career age-wise where you do see linebackers start to get it in the NFL, start to understand what they're looking at across the ball. It takes a while to start to understand the different schemes. College offenses, by and large, are pretty simple. There are 3 or 4 reads depending on formation, and as long as you do your film work and you study, you can get in there and make a big difference. The NFL's a little bit different. It's actually a lot different. It's difficult for linebackers to step in and have a really big impact. Ask Devin Bush, So you can be elite in college and still struggle. It's kind of like tight end. It's kind of like the tight end of the defense. Tight ends tend to take a little bit longer to kind of hit their stride and become elite in the NFL. Same thing with linebackers. I think that you're going to see Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, and Akeem Davis-Gaither all take steps forward, and this linebacking core is going to be sandwiched in between two really improved, I think, improved units. I think the defensive line overall will be improved because of the addition of Tyler Shelvin and Joseph Osai, plus you're going to have Larry Ogunjobi and DJ Reader being healthy all year. Huge difference. That defensive line went from a kind of a weakness last year because of all the injuries to a strength this year. I think it's going to be a strength of that defense. It's going to be tough to run on them. Which is that you're going to have Shelvin and Reader sucking up blocks, which is going to keep bodies off of the linebackers, and they should have a better year. I don't know if that means, I'm not predicting that they make the top 32 projected for next offseason. I'm just saying they should be improved, and I'll eat my words if I'm wrong. Let's take a look at the slot cornerbacks now. After the linebackers, just kind of moving from the inside out on the defense. Slot cornerbacks. Mike Hilton, number 4. It's big, man. It's big because the Bengals had a lot of problems because of injuries. Trey Waynes was down. You had to move Darius Phillips outside. You had William Jackson outside on one side. You had to move Darius Phillips out of the slot, and the slot depth was really bad. So you ended up with guys like LaShawn Sims playing, and you just can't have that kind of stuff. Having a guy that is just going to be a plug-and-play, shutdown, elite slot corner, kind of like what they had with... Now, he's a different style player, but kind of like what they had with Pac-Man, right? Pac-Man didn't have to worry about the other team's slot receiver. Pac-Man was there. He was going to shut it down. Pac-Man had really elite coverage skills for a slot corner. Mike Hilton is no slouch in coverage. He's a really good zone slot corner, but he's more of a blitzer. Look for them to use him in blitz, nickel and dime blitz packages a lot, because he is probably the best blitzing slot corner in the league. And I agree with their ranking here. I might even move him up. Jonathan Jones is really good, and these guys are good. What's interesting here is you got another guy on this list who's a free agent, and Brian Poole. Brian, if you're a long time watcher of the channel, Brian Poole was on my kind of list of guys they should be looking at. I'm glad they went and got Mike Hilton instead, because I do think he's better. So now let's take a look. You already saw it. I clicked over. You saw it. There's Trey Waynes at number 31. So the Bengals do have a top 32 corner, but there's going to be another stinger, absolute stinger. You hate to see it. And I do think he may be a little overrated on this list, to be honest with you. But there's William Jackson, the third at number 9. The PFF loves William Jackson because he had just the best rookie season that they had ever seen out of a corner. He'd graded like 90.4 in his first year. He's not come anywhere close to that since then, though. That's the big problem, and there are all kinds of reasons for that. There's injury reasons, scheme reasons. He was being used out of position last year. So maybe he does come back and is a top 10 outside corner. He hasn't played like that in a while, though, so I do think he's a little overrated in this list until he proves he can go back to the way that he played when he was a rookie. But if you take a look down through here, there are some guys the Bengals could have gone after in the offseason that they did not, and I think that they prioritized depth at the corner position over making one big splashy signing, and I think that's the right move, because the thing that killed them last year was the lack of depth. A couple guys got injured, and now all of a sudden you're playing practice squad guys out there, and they're going to get roasted. I mean, NFL quarterbacks are going to see those guys coming on the field, and it's they're just going to take it. They're just going to punish you for putting those guys out there. The Bengals didn't have a choice last year. That's kind of what happens. But Trey Waynes, if you don't remember, was a really good outside corner when he was playing for the Vikings under Mike Zimmer. This is why the Bengals gave him the money. He just tore his pec doing bench presses. Just some freak weird stuff, man. And the Bengals can't. If it wasn't for bad luck, the Bengals would have no luck when it comes to injuries, right? And every team can say that. Every team has their share of injuries. But let's move on to the one we all want to finish on a high note, right? The safeties. I will say I actually think Jesse Bates is getting robbed here. He's getting jobbed. He's underrated in this list, number 8 overall, yet the very first sentence says he recorded the highest overall PFF grade among safeties last season at a 90.1. Okay, then shouldn't he be higher than number 8?
Yep!
Their argument for Justin Simmons holds up, because if you take the last 2 years of PFF grades, he has the highest. But how do you put other guys over, this John Johnson graded an 80.0. 10 points lower. I don't know. I just don't get it. But all I know is this is the kind of stuff that will put huge chips on all of these Bengals shoulders, right next to the stripes. And I think that they're gonna use all this stuff. I love the energy I'm seeing out of this team. I love the mentality of us against the world. The national media does a better job than anyone else could of giving the Bengals bulletin board material, and now you got guys that can actually take advantage of it, like Joe Burrow, who doesn't need a reason to get hyper competitive. He just always is going to be. You've got the guys on defense who all have something to prove. The guys that had coming back from injuries, also guys that were signed on free agent contract. They want to prove that they made the right decision. They're catching heat from other fans around the league for signing with the Bengals. That they're going to want to come out here and show, hey, we're a top 10 defense this year. We got that dude in Joe Burrow. We're a team to fear in 2021, and that's the energy we need to take into the season. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for joining me. Love you guys. I've been Mike. This has been Who Daily.